Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of Season 2 of the Mavpuckcast. I am Jason, and Jon is here with me.
That's right.
And we are going to talk about Maverick hockey
that's
with
what we,
enthusiasm.
Because that's what we do here. That's what we do here.
That's what they told us to do.
That's what we represent, man.
Because otherwise we'd have to rename the podcast to something different. We don't have ideas.
Yeah, we have no ideas.
So we talk Maverick hockey, home series with Duluth this past weekend.
Yeah, you were not in town.
I was not. We were up in Minnesota. Actually, I had to split up this week because both of my daughters played in two different cities. So I was in Blue Earth. It sounds better than I love saying
Blue Earth.
Minnesota.
Sounds, yeah.
It's not that interesting. But had some good pizza.
Well, good.
The girls fought hard. So
it sounded like, I saw some of the updates you posted.
It was interesting. They tied they ended up tying the last place team on Friday night.
Okay.
Fought back from 2 goals down 3 times to get a 6-6 tie. And then lost to the home team.
Okay.
And then beat. Who did we beat? I'm trying to remember. Des Moines wasn't there. Anyways, we won the last game, and that got us a title match, a rematch with the team that we had lost to, and the girls just dominated on Sunday. It was really nice to see because I know they were kind of upset they didn't play the best against them and struggled at times, and it was a really close game. It was 2 teams that are pretty evenly matched, obviously between the 2 games, and so that was really exciting. And then
nice.
I hightailed it after that game, and we were able to make my youngest daughter's last game in Austin, the Spam capital of the world.
Yeah, you toured the Spam Museum last year.
Yeah, and they toured it this year.
Okay.
I didn't get to.
It's an annual tradition now.
I think every team that goes
tours the Spam Museum. Museum. I'm glad that youth hockey's propping up the Spam Museum. It's good to hear. Well, Bridget and I were here because we're always here for UNO hockey home games.
You saw better hockey, right?
Than you saw?
Yeah, right?
I don't know. Did we?
No, I think it's debatable.
Did we see better hockey than you saw? It was another tough weekend for the Mavericks.
Yeah, we got swept. So I had to watch online. You were there in person. What was your impression of the 2 games?
Well, and you and I talked a little bit about this before the episode. Number one, UNO gave up a lot of shots at the top of the circles. Both games this weekend.
Right.
Uncontested shots. And that's tough. That's tough. You leave a team like Duluth out there to fire at will. They're probably going to get something through. I'm just saying.
We've said it before on the podcast, and I've thought it all season around, is that, especially I think now that we're in NCHC play, that's when it really comes into matter. We need some guys that are willing to sacrifice the body, block some shots.
Yeah, we had some tough turnovers too in our in the neutral zone, in our offensive zone, and in our defensive zone this weekend. Right. That's always rough when that happens.
Yeah, I heard Gabnett talking about that on the post-game pressers.
Okay.
About the challenge that the team has with NCHC play. Just of what he said, not verbatim for what he said, was that you make one mistake and the puck's into the back of your net, and so you really have to. They're just having to kind of grow this team into learning to be a team that plays 60 minutes of perfect hockey.
Yeah. Just a mentally very, very tough team is what they're trying to become,
right.
I think.
I mean, you literally can't make any mistake. And the problem is with freshmen is that you start putting that kind of pressure on them. And
inevitably,
most of the time they crack.
Right. They'll make mistakes when they're trying not to make mistakes. That just happens in athletics all the time. I mean,
yeah. And early on, Seville was bailing us out of some of our mistakes, I thought, early on in the season. And against Miami and now against Duluth, I don't think he's been that. Like, he hasn't made that kind of unbelievable, like, thank God he was there because the defense totally messed up type of things. It's like the defense messes up, and I mean, he's trying, but
the last couple series, I see what you're saying. It's kind of like it wasn't one of those things where you looked at the goaltender and said, the goaltender's play saved us this weekend. That did not. That really hasn't been a factor the past two series, I would say.
And you really don't want that. I mean, you just don't want your goaltender to be the reason why you win games. You want them to be solid.
You're really hoping the team in front of them will respond, minimize opportunities in the slot, do those types of things. And that did not happen this weekend.
I felt a few of the goals that Seville let in were kind of soft. The first goal of the game on Friday night, I thought, I felt at least that was a save he would normally make. I don't know what it looked like from your end, so live. I mean,
well, you know,
see, that's the thing is like
live. It's a little bit different.
It's always different live.
It's tough, and they show us, like, if they do show us replays at Baxter Arena, they're very brief. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You'll get a replay on there. It's not like we get it 3 or 4 times. That's what, you know, my buddy Scott who sits behind us was like, I missed the replay. Could they please show that again? I mean, could they just, unless they're reviewing it for some reason, show it to us a few times. But instead, we seem to get highlights at these games a lot of times of the, you know, the series that happened, you know, previously. You know what I'm saying?
And then when they do show the replay, it's usually a single angle.
Right.
And that's the other advantage that you get with
sometimes with TV coverage.
A lot of times they'll show the replays and they'll show the multiple angles of it.
Right.
And that comes into play on Friday with Weiss's goal, or at least the one that they credited to Weiss. He comes off the wing on the face-off and challenges. I can't remember how they had their face-off set up, if they had the defenseman over there to move the puck around or not.
You know, and
but
Jason,
he came off and challenged, and a lot of people were like, oh, it was an own goal, and even the announcers for Duluth, I had said, oh, man, we shot it into our own net. And if you look at the replay, Weiss gets his stick in there, and it deflects off of Weiss's stick and up over the goaltender. So it's like, yeah, it's not the, you know, crazy, you know, he dangles it through the guy's feet and makes some ridiculous shot type of thing. But, I mean, that was a valiant effort from Weiss this weekend. And so I think he deserves credit for the effort that he put into something like that. But that's something that I was thinking, like, man, up there, you know, where we sit, what does it look? I assume that it looked like they shot it in their own net.
Yeah, I thought that they did shoot it into their own net, and I will tell you that they did correct that for Weiss.
Oh.
And they gave it to Abate.
Did they give that one to Abate?
Yeah.
Because it's on, when I had looked before, it was on NCHC, or it was on NCAA on OCHO.
Yes, that's the way a number of entities had tweeted it, including Mavpuck on Twitter. And then
because
they switched to
they had changed it from OCHO had changed it from a snapshot for Weiss to a tip. So I assumed that that's what they had gone back and looked at it and noticed that he didn't actually shoot it, and it was just a off his stick.
I honestly can't.
Abate would be the next one because he was the one who won the face-off.
Yeah, so I'm not altogether sure on that, but looking at the stat sheet right now, I don't have Weiss on there.
Okay.
So UNO does not have him on there, and I think that was the one that was then credited to Abate.
Okay.
So, yeah, we thought it was Weiss too, but apparently not. So, I don't know.
Well, even if he doesn't get on it that way, I think that he deserves credit for the effort that he put in to challenge that. I mean,
oh yeah,
if he's not there, that puck's easily wrapped around the boards.
Yeah.
I mean, you contested that, so you forced a mistake at least. And I think that's the thing, looking at I think the Friday final 6-3, it's odd because when I watched it online, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna lose by a couple goals, just the way it seemed like we were playing. But Abate then ends up with 2 goals.
Yep.
And I mean, we're in it. Like
they were in it. Yeah.
It's 4-3.
They were able to come back.
1-1. It's 2-2.
I know.
And then it's just like,
that was the craziness. That's that
right after Abate's goal.
That's that craziness, and it's that when you're most vulnerable as a team, is right after you scored a goal.
We've said that on this podcast a number of times.
Yep.
Why do we keep giving up goals right after we score goals? It just kills us.
And it's something you see with younger teams sometimes.
I don't know what the staff can do, but I think Gabnet needs to do some things with these kids that really, focuses on that, like, mental toughness. That, like, never letting off the gas. Go, go, go kind of thing. Because, like, we score a goal and we kind of just, like, it seems like we take a breath, and I don't want them to breathe. Like, I want them just to be, like, you score a goal and you forget about it as quickly as you scored it.
Right. Yeah, and so we were talking about that Weiss goal thing. Now, there are people who, it was that craziness with Dylan Sandberg where it looked like he scored on his own. It was just crazy. It was crazy how that happened because it kind of like clanked off the post. It was, yeah.
It was an odd angle to score one.
It was. When you look at it, and the crazy thing is when you look at the replay of that, it looks like...
I saw
it looks like he almost, it was kind of right off the face off. It almost looks like he was like confused and thought he was in his offensive zone and turns around and fires it on his old goaltender, but he was trying to like...
He's trying to wrap the puck around the back of the net to the wing that moves off the... It's a pretty generic breakout, but...
Yeah, Chris Stilks has that, and yeah.
Has what?
He has the article about the Dylan Sandberg here. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
I don't know.
Because the Bulldogs were leading 2-1 early in the third period, and a face-off in the UNDM, like we were talking about. UMD captain Justin Richards won a face-off to Sandberg, who tried to play the puck around the end boards for a breakout, but Sandberg's geometry was a bit off, and instead this happened. What the hell? Own goal, and UNO has now tied it 2-2 in the third. So, yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I thought it looked like he put it in the net. You saw something different. I thought it looked like their guy put it in the net. I'm like, what the hell just happened? So,
well, like every angle that they showed on the broadcast, I thought Weiss got a stick on it. That's what I thought.
But then they didn't credit it to Weiss, so now I'm...
Well, so then...
Are they doing Abate because he was the closest guy to him? They did right away. You're right. They did right away.
They do Abate because he was the last one to touch the puck.
Okay.
He would have touched the puck in the face.
Okay, so
if it's not Weiss's goal, it either would have been Weiss from Abate or it was Abate unassisted.
Yeah, and so it says that UNO's got it credited Abate unassisted. So
yeah.
So yeah, he put that in which was great.
This came into play like a few years back in an NHL game for like a minute and a half. A team had a goaltender pulled, and they're moving the puck around. Forward goes to pass it back to the defense. Defense misses it. Puck goes in the empty net, and the refs spent like quite a while to go back and figure out which member of the team was the last one to touch it.
Because it looked like Weiss, and that's what they said during the game when we were sitting there in Baxter Arena. So that's initially we thought. And then they went back and yes, okay. And then they went back and corrected it later on. So that's crazy.
Yeah, I saw like CHN had it come across as Weiss right after it happened, and
right, which was great because that tied it up 2-2. So thank you, Minnesota Duluth. We appreciate that. Yeah.
A goal's a goal. I don't
It
care
was just
how it
it's a
happens.
goal's a goal is a goal, and we'll take we'll take that. So at that point the game was tied, and then Duluth got the next two on Friday night, and you're I don't know. That was a tough game, but we did show some signs of life in the third period. It was a rough weekend all around. And then I wasn't sure what to think going into Saturday night. Obviously the score was closer Saturday night. It looked like they maybe rebounded a little bit. They get the first goal on Saturday night.
Seems like they bounced back pretty well because I think it was a little bit back and forth on Friday. It was kind of more a lot of Duluth on Saturday until the third period. And then it seemed like we decided, oh yeah, we're going to play today.
Yeah, exactly. We got the first goal, and then they got 3 unanswered goals, and so it was 3-1 at that point. And I think that's when my dad, who's 78 years old, as you know, he leaves fairly early anyway because he just wants to beat the traffic home. He left after the first period because he was not sure what was going to happen. We were down 2-1. It was rough when we were down 3-1, but obviously a 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in college hockey or any level of hockey. Or so they say. I guess what is a 1-goal lead the second most dangerous lead in college hockey? But yeah, it was a tough one. But we did show some signs of life in the third period.
I think part of
I'm having a hard time today because obviously I just feel tired after the weekend.
What I struggle with right now is that the last couple series that we've had, it seems like we're playing more like last year.
It does.
And that worries me.
That worries me too.
The one difference is, and I said it last week, and I'll say it again, it seems like these guys are willing to fight through things more than last season.
They don't seem to get rattled as easily as that team did last season. And the other factor, I think, is that they have more depth than last season. Last season, you had one line that could score, and that was basically it.
Yeah.
This time, it feels like there's more depth. Now, I don't know if, player for player, if we have the kind of depth that we need to go toe-to-toe with our NCHC foes. That's suspect at this point in the season. I think you might agree with that.
Yeah, completely. We don't have a top end NCHC team at this point in time. But could we? I mean, there's flashes of potential.
Could, yeah, there's flashes of potential.
Ward, I think, hasn't been as productive as he was last year, but he's still playing pretty good hockey.
Yeah, he's playing well.
Weiss is playing
better than last season.
So that's
Abate's a nice surprise this season.
Sullivan's been
a surprise too. Yeah,
he's since he got into the lineup. Conley, I think, has been more physical than he was last year.
Yeah, he's rock steady.
Then there's the ones that you kind of go like, oh, I kind of hoped for maybe a little bit more with some of these freshmen. Wah was one of them. I kind of, stat wise, I'm thinking, oh man, if he can come in and
he's big. That's the thing. You can't teach size,
right? And
you can't teach the wingspan, and those are two things he's
got.
Size
doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it. And it seems like he's still trying to just find his way, and you got to understand that he's a freshman. I mean, it's not
right.
It's really difficult for you to expect a freshman, especially a freshman defenseman, to come in and make an impact. And so, I don't want to give the kid, a hard time for it because I'm sure that he's putting in, a good effort.
Yeah.
And stuff, but I just you kind of hoped if we were, and then looking at it and saying what does UNO need to have happen to be a top 4 team and have, home ice in a playoff. And I'm thinking, these are the kids that really have to come in and be difference makers.
Right.
And we're close, but we just don't seem to have it. And I think that's what we saw against Duluth, we're close. A few bounces go our way, and those are different games. And, Seville makes some saves, and all of a sudden, maybe we have a lead instead of, trailing by one. So there's just a lot of that.
We haven't quite figured out when we're in a close game how to how to hold a tie or even hold a 1-goal lead at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It's one of those things where if we had like a 2-goal lead, it might be a better position for us than what we've seen so far. They're not quite there as far as kind of grinding out a win or grinding out a tie, if you know what I mean.
We seem to have our best games too when we go pedal to the metal out of the gate.
Yeah. When they run up and down the ice, basically.
When they say, like, we're going to go out here, and from the very first drop of the puck, we're going
full throttle.
All the way down.
Let me ask you about that. Does that seem to kind of contradict what we thought was going to epitomize a Mike Gabinet team? Because we had heard from people, and again, it's you and I are armchair analysts hearing from other armchair analysts. We had heard that maybe this, kind of this program was going to become a program that was kind of more of a slow it down, more methodical, defensive, net out type of team. And as you pointed out so eloquently, we're a team that has had our successes this season running up and down the ice, kind of like those, Dean Blaze teams of, yesteryear did.
And I remember when Gabinet first came in, he talked about that kind of net out sacrifice kind of hockey.
Right.
And I think he had a team that was better, especially defensively.
Better suited with some of those defensemen that we had a couple of years ago. Yeah.
I don't know that he has the team to do that. His philosophy and the things that he said at things like when we go to the dinners with the Mavs and stuff, the way he talks is more about responsibility right now. And if that's his MO and that's his idea for how he builds UNO as a program is, it's more about do your job, know what your role is, play in your lane,
and as you said, play responsibly, do the little things right.
Yeah. Put in an effort. Don't be lazy. Like, I think that kind of system can work, and you can still kind of do both. Like, you can still have defensemen that are very much a crash and protect kind of defense style,
right?
But the transition game becomes a challenge because those defensemen not only have to be able to do that, they have to still be able to move the puck.
Right.
And that's a very unique thing to get someone who's willing to play that kind of game, but still capable of hitting tape-to-tape passes.
Yeah.
And you can tell the games where we struggle because, I'll talk to some of the guys that I know there at the game in the first intermission. I'm like, it's not going to end up well for us. We're missing too many easy passes, simple plays. And then you start passing up the good play to try to make something crazy happen. And then you have those bad giveaways and then we're screwed again. So
it's tough. And, the thing was we had heard that they worked on the penalty kill in practice last week. And quite honestly, if you look at this weekend, UNO was good on the penalty kill.
They killed off a full 5 penalty. So
we didn't give up a power play goal on Friday night, which I thought was terrific. And anyway, I think we gave up 1 on Saturday night, but it was tough. The shorthanded goal that we gave up on Friday night, that was or was that Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night. That shorthanded goal we gave up to make it 2-1. That was kind of a momentum killer right there.
Yeah, shorthanded goals kill you.
They do. It was just tough. And hats off to Duluth. They were a team that was, they were willing to step in front of everything. They had no fear once they established their forecheck.
Right.
It was a tough deal. It's just tough. I can tell, Jason and I sound completely low energy on this podcast. One of the things I do think, and let's look at more aspiration. It would be interesting to know what kind of goals the team has for itself, aside from the, doing the small things right, winning shifts, winning in certain zones of the ice. It would be interesting to know going into the season if they, as a team, because we don't know this, we're not flies on the wall. We have no idea. Do they have like aspirational goals? Like our goal this year is to finish whatever place in the conference or to win this many games before January 1st. It would be interesting to know if they had those kind of aspirational goals, because sometimes those things can help motivate you to do the little things right, whether it's in sports or whether it's in life. I know for me, sometimes, I can get up and do all the little things I'm supposed to on a day-to-day basis in our business. But sometimes if I have a bigger goal, like if I have a goal that, I want to bill $1,000 a week, because I've done that during certain years. I'm like, this year I want to bill $1,000 a week. And I'll do a lot of things that I wouldn't normally do in order to achieve that goal. Mm. And so even if I don't hit the goal, I will inevitably have made more money in the year by doing those things. And again, it'll kind of force me to start to do the little things, put the pieces together, force myself out of my comfort zone to get that goal accomplished.
And there's plenty of books out there I've read that talk about that, like not setting goals that are easily attainable because you want something that's constantly out of grasp. You can still do.
Yeah.
Like you don't want it to be impossible.
No, exactly. You don't want it to be like we're going to come into the season, we're going to win a national championship in hockey. You don't want it to be that, but you want it to be something that you feel like you can do. It's still going to be a challenge, but it keeps you moving because you're constantly trying to reach out and grasp it.
Home ice in the first round.
Right.
Like, that's like, okay, well, there's a lot of things that could go wrong that we wouldn't necessarily win a championship, conference or national, right?
Right.
But it's a long season.
Yeah.
Put in the work. Home ice could be, that kind of thing.
Like our goal's fourth place or something. Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is like I talk to the guys and I don't get the impression that there is that
I know, and I didn't. Yeah, sometimes coaches and players are a little bit squeamish about mentioning that because they don't want to, you know what I'm saying? They don't want to, but they don't
want to set an expectation.
But I do wonder, let's take them at their word and let's say that there isn't something like that. Should there be something like that for this team to hang their hat on? Because otherwise, what do you get motivated for? You know what I'm saying? Because you and I, look, I'll give you an example, like diet and exercise. There are some people who can get up, they can go run 3 kilometers a day. They can, have a protein shake for breakfast, eat a bowl of fruit for lunch, and have a chicken breast and broccoli spears for dinner. And they're completely happy with that. And they don't need some external motivation to do it. If you're talking about me, I need to have a goal, like I'm trying to lose 20 pounds or something in order to want to do those things. You know what I'm saying? Something that's a bigger kind of a macro goal that I'm trying to achieve. And so I do wonder, if they don't have that kind of goal, does it make it harder to do those little things right on the kind of the shift by shift basis? If you're not we're doing this because we want to get here. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. This is very much an intangible type of conversation, but it does make you wonder if something like that they have a benchmark like that they're trying to hit or not. And I just threw that out just for argument's sake, because I don't know, because we don't hear a lot about that as fans.
So our reoccurring segment on this has been Players of the Weekend.
Players of the Weekend.
Do you want to go first so I don't steal yours, or do you want me to go first and risk it?
No, I'll go first. That's fine. All right. I'm going to go with Joey Abate. I'm going back to where I was in October every week. Was that who you were going to pick?
No.
Okay, good.
So you were safe, but yeah, I knew you were going to pick that.
I'm going with Abate the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Including that unassisted goal off the face-off that Duluth scored on us. But yeah, I'm going to go with it.
How often can you say that a lost face-off works out for you? But
I'll tell you what, he had a really good game on Saturday night. And I felt like watching him Saturday night, I felt like he was, because he didn't quite have the series that I thought he was going to have against Miami. So I felt like he was back this weekend. And I was glad to see that.
Yeah,
he's a player I've enjoyed watching this season. And
I was a little worried about him going into Saturday's game because I didn't think he had a good performance on Friday. I didn't think he had anything above average kind of
No, thing. I can understand that. But he gets that first goal on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I really think that helped kind of, I was hoping it was going to help set the tone for a win. It didn't go that way, but yeah, so Joey Abate again. I got to give Joey Abate some love because he's been great. So
I'm going to go with Weiss.
Okay.
I thought that not only was this his best weekend, I would argue that this is probably his 2 best games of the season so far. He really the one thing that impressed me with him on this weekend was the power play. When he was out there on the power play, he was heads up, he controlled the puck, and it seemed like they got a lot of good chances off of plays he was making. I'm trying to remember. It was Saturday. I'm pretty sure there
was Saturday. There was one in particular where he kind of took the puck coast to coast, and it was like, I'm taking this into the zone, and I'm going to make something happen. And he very nearly did make something happen.
And it was after I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah,
we were struggling on that,
right?
And it was like he finally just said, "All right, fine, I'm going. You guys come with me."
Yeah,
and I think that helps because I think that his game is on best display in that manner.
Right.
The power plays are great. He gets a little bit more space, and he can find those lanes. He's a playmaker. We've talked about that. That's what he had one on Saturday. The one I was trying to think about was, he had kind of done a little bit of a curl move, was coming down the boards and rifled this perfect pass.
Yes, across the seam, yeah. I know that was a beautiful little pass.
Yep. And he had a lot of those like smart decisions. When it wasn't there or when there were too many sticks in the lane or something, like he knew to go back to Scanlon. So there was a lot of that. I think that, even if you don't credit him with the goal and he only has the assist on Saturday, I think that he had a really, really good weekend.
He did.
And hopefully, these are always kind of ones that like, is this the start of him really kind of incrementally stepping it up every week, and we're starting to see the kid that last year we thought we were going to get. I think our next segment here is to talk about that dinner with the Mavs that we went to. He had said to me at the dinner with the Mavs that he was really starting to finally feel healthy because he's been battling some injuries and stuff since last season. And so I think that if he's really starting to feel like he can play his game at 100% and feel comfortable on the ice, that's good news for the Mavs.
Absolutely. And one other player I want to give a shout out to here is Kevin Conley, because I'll tell you what, when he got that game misconduct on Friday night, that was a different team without him. You realize just how important he is in that lineup. So he's a key guy that we've got to keep healthy and keep out of the penalty box for sure. So
and I thought that was a weird.
That was a weird, and I Coach Gabinet questioned that call, and I kind of question it myself.
I mean, I'm in a hard spot because I watch it going, okay, well, technically.
Yeah, I know.
But then again, like, I watch it going, that's 2 guys wanting something, and one of them just was better at it.
Yeah.
Like.
Exactly.
That's kind of like, it's 12U girls hockey, but still, like, one of the dads was like, I can't believe you're not upset about that. And I'm like, so my daughter's good. She's not tall. Like, she's short, okay? She's a little girl, all right? And she's out there, and this girl's probably twice her height. No joke. And not like thin, stocky twice her height. Like, twice her height and like 150 pounds on her. I mean, it's just like... And I've been trying to get my daughter just to be a little bit more physical in hockey because she tends to kind of shy away from physical contact in general, right?
Yeah.
And so I was really proud because she wanted to be in this spot. She knew this was a spot that was, a good spot in the slot to be in. And this girl came over and kind of bumped her, and she kind of bumped her back, and then, a couple stick shots to the shins. And it was kind of, is this tit for tat thing going on? And
sure.
I'm like, good for her. And then the big girl just finally got fed up with it and pushed her down, right?
Yeah.
Well, the ref was watching all of this. He was letting it all go until she pushed her down. And then it was like, okay, well, now we're going to call. But I felt for the ref because I don't disagree with the call he made. He looked at it and said, was it lopsided enough that one person did something to someone else that warranted a penalty, right? And he said, no, they were both shoving, and it finally got to, at that point in time, I don't want the game to get out of hand. I'm calling it right then.
Right.
And so I thought it was a good play by the refs. The Conley thing, I don't think so. Because I think in that situation, it was two guys going for it. It's unfortunate the way that
Right.
it ended it up, but I think to give a match on that, to send a guy out for 5, you give him 2 and you say,
yeah,
you both wanted it and he beat you.
Yeah.
Sorry. But
a lot of fans would concur with that. So, yeah.
But if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have a game with a major penalty.
Right.
And then what kind of hockey are we playing? So,
yeah, who knows?
I mean, you've got to have a 5-minute misconduct somewhere in every game.
It pretty much seems like that's the course in NCHC play now.
So dinner with the Mavs mentioned.
Dinner with the Mavs. Yeah, it was the Thursday before
our Friday dinner.
Our Saturday series with Duluth.
Yep.
Thursday night dinner. We got to sit with Jordan Clare and John Schultz.
And Schultz. Mm-hmm.
Minnesota boys.
Talked about lakes.
Yep.
And fish.
Some of the outdoor stuff they like to do.
And they like to eat salmon.
Yeah.
Apparently not really raw salmon. Because when they went back for the buffet line, it was not as well cooked. So
I don't know. Need it. Yeah, I went back. Oh, that's right. We were waiting for salmon in the line.
Yeah.
And so Bridget went up because that's what she wanted, because she's not a meat eater. She doesn't eat that much meat. I mean, she'll eat a steak every once in a while when we go out to a steak restaurant.
Right.
But yeah, so she went up there and she signaled John Schultz and said they've got salmon here, but apparently it was a little bit underdone.
Yeah, I don't know if all of it was or just what.
I don't know. I went back up for seconds. I got more of the roast beef.
Yeah.
In the gravy or whatever that beef was.
Really
the potatoes were great. I loaded up on those.
It's a really great experience for people who haven't done it. I mean, it's is it $25 for dinner, I think?
Yeah, I can't remember. I know there's a price that if you get them in advance, and then if you get them, if tickets are available, they do it at Anthony's Steakhouse here in Omaha. It's a buffet dinner. 2 of the players will generally sit at the table with fans. I don't ever know if they have to draw straws to decide who sits at the table with the people who do the podcast and the Mavpuck website. But the guys,
I wondered if coach is like, nope, you're not allowed to sit there. Like, I don't care who sits with them.
We're really nice.
People are off limits.
We're really nice people. I think that's what people find out when they meet us in person. We are really nice people. We're really good fans. We're really engaged, and
we're very humble too.
Oh yeah, we're incredibly humble. We're just more humble than everybody else. That's what makes us so great. That's right.
Trev Alberts talked, which was really fascinating. I really appreciate him coming out to the dinner, because he's not one that I have not heard him speak like directly like that before.
It's been a while. Cool. Early on when he was hired in 2009, at that point, he did a lot more public appearances and speaking engagements with fans. And he's always really interesting to hear. And it was kind of fun to hear him, because obviously those early years, the stuff that he talked about is a lot different than the stuff he's talking about a decade later. So it was pretty interesting. He gave a talk at the Omaha Press Club back in October. And that was kind of a more in-depth version of what you got to hear at Dinner with the Mavs. But it's really cool. I mean, it's just hearing stuff like the hockey program generates like 90% of the outside revenue for athletics, and how Baxter Arena is going to make like what $400,000 to $500,000 on concerts. Yeah, and that helps when the team is struggling a little bit and ticket sales aren't going well. It helps make up for that.
I liked what he had to say about if you ever see. So I'll relay his message here. If you ever see a concert or a entertainment event, we'll say, at Baxter that you want to support or you think would be interesting, go and pay the money and go see the show. Because I don't think what a lot of people realize is that that's actually money that gets back to university athletics.
It is. A lot of people would probably just assume most of it went to the artist and all UNO got was money to cover expenses or something.
Baxter Auto was profiting off of that or something,
or some weird thing like,
I would, and honestly, I mean, I know a lot of universities that do it that don't do it that way, and I wouldn't know specifically how ours is set up, but
it's some sort of revenue sharing deal, yeah. Right.
So, and even things like they have youth hockey tournaments there. They have the curling events and things like there. The was it before the Winter Olympics 2 years ago?
Yeah, curling.
Yeah,
curling trials.
When they had the
you
curling
guys went.
trials.
Yeah, you guys bought tickets for that. Yeah.
I mean, those are types of events that you don't think about, but that money gets back to university athletics.
Bridget and I are big fans of Christian music, and we've gone to 3 or 4 Christian concerts there. They have quite a few during the year, and so it's obviously it's close to our house, and it's a venue we're familiar with and that we like. But it was kind of cool to hear that helps them offset potential revenue loss, because one of the things Trev Alberts pointed out was that just across the board in college athletics, it's a tough time to sell tickets regardless of what sport you're talking about. There's just a small sliver of programs that really consistently make money on their athletic teams in a significant way. So it was pretty interesting to hear. But I enjoyed the talk that we heard with him in October, and I enjoyed the one at the dinner with the Mavs. I encourage him to get out and speak more, because I think he offers a lot of insight to the athletic department I don't think the average fan knows, and I think would really benefit from knowing. So, one of the things he did mention too, and this came up, and it was because there had been a lot of, I don't know why it was exactly, but there had been a lot of back and forth between Denver fans and Arizona State hockey fans during the week about Arizona State's arena and their uniforms. So Trev Alberts brought up the notion of whether Arizona State might be an addition someday to the NCHC. And I thought maybe we should talk about that, because we're going to be playing them here in a couple weeks.
It'd be good speculation to have. So,
do you want me to give my? Okay, I'll give you my thoughts. I know some people are against the idea of messing with the current balance of teams in the conference, and I certainly am sensitive to that, and I understand that. However, when UNO started as a program back in 1997, they very much wanted to get into the WCHA. They kind of got the cold shoulder from the WCHA at that time, because the WCHA was getting ready to add Mankato to the conference. Mankato had just gone Division I. And so it didn't look like UNO was going to get into the WCHA, and there were a number of prognosticators in college hockey that thought UNO should be part of the independent conference that was looking like it was going to form, with schools that were independents at that time, like Air Force, Bemidji State. You had Wayne State in Detroit, Michigan was playing Division I hockey. You had Findlay in Ohio. You had Niagara. Some of those schools are in the WCHA currently, in Atlantic hockey currently, but they wanted UNO to be in that Indy conference. And UNO really wanted to be in one of the major conferences in order to establish themselves. So UNO decided to look at the Central Collegiate Hockey Association, and Ron Mason, who was the Michigan State coach at that time, a coach of, who had a lot of respect and a lot of stature, went to bat for UNO, because there were some member schools in the CCHA that were a little bit concerned about adding UNO, which was just a brand new program. Part of the reason was because the CCHA had invited schools like Kent State, and I think Illinois Chicago was one of the others, but I know Kent State for sure. And Kent State, ended up in the conference, and then their program folded a season or two later. So there was some kind of wariness about adding UNO, but Ron Mason went to bat, and I think it really has helped UNO kind of become the program that they are and achieve the stature that they are. And I don't think without those early victories as far as conference affiliation that we would necessarily be in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference today. So, long story short, when it comes to Arizona State, I'm not really willing as a fan to be kind of snobby about this. They haven't paid their dues and they haven't done this and that. I do think that they need to probably, break ground on their own arena down there in the Phoenix metropolitan area, because I think that would probably help their cause. But I'm not necessarily willing to close the door to the idea of Arizona State. I actually think it might be kind of fun and a neat dynamic to have them in the conference.
I look at it a little bit differently.
Okay.
I don't care if they've paid their dues. I don't care how long they've been a program.
Okay.
I think that it has to be a good fit for all of the teams in the conference.
Okay.
There's some appeal, like a pro-con kind of analysis, right? Like there's some appeal about the idea of like every year you get to go out to Arizona.
Yes. Jason, also, I want to go out every January. I want to go January or February. I want to go to Arizona.
I think that the challenge becomes like the cost, right? Like right now, you can bus any of the NCHC teams can bus to the other teams. Like,
right.
It's a long drive for Colorado College to Duluth, but
now I know
you can do it.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I know UNO could, but I know in certain seasons UNO, for example, has bused to Miami and bused to Western Michigan. Now, in the last couple seasons, I know they've gotten back to flying to some of these series so that the players won't be as dead, worn out.
But you make that choice. Like you have the possibility to save some money to do that, right?
You can't really
State.
bus to Arizona. I mean, maybe Colorado College could, but it would still be a long bus ride.
So now every team's got the expense of a flight weekend, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is a direct flight from Omaha.
The other thing I look at is and
so you're that's almost like an Alaska example. You've got the added cost.
It's an expense,
yeah. Right.
And then you've got what I think Trev Alberts had said at the dinner with the Mavs when he was talking about some of this was when the NCHC started, there was a lot of friction lines that faltered. There were a lot of things that shook out kind of oddly with the CCHA and the Big Ten and the WCHA
right.
Because, all these teams are getting schlacked from one to another and who's getting what and what kind of conference is it going to be.
Thanks a lot, Penn State.
So I look at that saying every team, when they brought in teams to the NCHC, was committed to hockey being
right
a if not the top program at that school, a very important athletic program.
Exactly.
Right? I look at Arizona State going, is that a hockey school? Like, is that program important?
I completely understand because they are a Power 5 football institution. The question is, are football and basketball really the important sports to them? And is hockey just kind of a fun hobby that they're working on at this point?
So how much money? I mean, they don't have a... I play men's leagues in better hockey arenas than they
That
have.
is true. Now, just to be the devil's advocate on this, you look at some of the where Ferris State plays Ava Glaben Ice Arena. It's like a glorified Tranquility. You look at where Alaska Anchorage right now is playing. They moved out of their the city arena and they moved back into an on-campus one that's again like a Tranquility type of a situation. Now, obviously, those two teams are not in the NCHC, so you can make the argument. Well, there's a reason that they're not in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference. That is a big stumbling block, I think, for them at this point. Although I guess if I'm that program, I mean, you win in that, scary little dump. But it does make you wonder at this point because they haven't broken ground. Now they've said
they don't have press areas.
They've said we have plans.
They don't have good TV outage. Like there's nothing about Arizona's current building that works.
Right now, they've said they have plans to build a new arena. But until they actually do, but it's kind of
shut up, right?
It's kind of like us with our on-campus arena. Everybody thought UNO was insane when they wanted to move on campus because they were playing in the beautiful arena downtown. But then momentum started to do it. But it took, I think, longer than they were hoping for to get Baxter Arena done. So this project down there could take longer for them to get done if the people in the community don't.
I mean, what do they mean by plans? Because is this a 5-year plan? And these are things that we don't people in the NCHC may know. that we don't.
Right. They may know.
I'm just saying that, like, with publicly available information, I question whether or not I want UNO going there, playing in that kind of facility.
And they were supposed to break ground this fall, and that has not happened. Now, I don't know if there's some huge hang up or if it just hasn't happened yet. I don't know. But you're absolutely right. The facility is definitely not up to par with the peer institutions in the National Collegiate Hockey Conference.
And then the other part of it, I think, is what does the conference makeup look like if you do bring them in? 8 teams is a very ideal way of doing
for playoffs and whatnot.
Right.
10 is an even number, but 10 gets a little trickier. So if you brought in Arizona State, brought in Arizona State and let's just say Mankato.
Right.
Because they seem like they'd be the most.
Right now, you play every team twice except for 2 teams.
Right.
There's one team that you only play in their building. There's one team that you only play in your building. With 8 teams, that's how it works out, right?
Right.
Okay. So if we bring in one more team, now do you have 4 teams that you only play once?
I can't remember. Obviously when UNO joined the CCHA, then it became 12 teams, but the WCHA was 10 teams for a number of those years back in the mid to late 90s through the point when UNO and Bemidji State ended up joining the conference. It can be done. I guess, they may have to switch to like the NCHC Final 5 at the end of the season.
Then you get the issue. Like, I don't like odd number of teams in the conference, I think is what I'm getting to. Is like, I kind of say, I would bring in Arizona State. If
you've got to bring at least another, because I don't think 9 teams. I wouldn't do 9 teams either.
Right. No. Because then just like, okay, well, right now, every team plays NCHC. And when we get into the spring, it's every NCHC team is playing, and they're playing another NCHC team, right? You got 9 teams. How does that work out?
No, that's a weird scenario where it's like the last place team. You could do, like in the CCHA days, that was the weird thing about it. It started off as one thing, and then it evolved into where the top of the 12 teams, the top 4 seeds had byes, and then 5 through 12 played the first weekend, and then the winners of those games went and played the 4 teams, the top 4 seeds that had the bye week. If it's 10 teams, then you can get into a kind of a weird situation of, do the 2 last place teams in the conference just not make the conference playoffs at the end? You could see them doing it that way. I remember. Yeah,
but then you have that's lost revenue.
It is. It's lost revenue.
Then you go the opposite way and you say, okay, well, let's give the top 2 teams a bye. So now we're going to bracket it out. And you're going to have top team on the left and top team on the right. And then you're essentially going to work it into.
Or you could do it like the WCHA did it when they were 10 teams. And then you have that situation where didn't all 10 teams play each other, and then the 5 winners moved on to the Twin Cities for the conference championship. And then I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't remember how the WCHA Final 5 was structured, but was it a deal where 2 teams?
Final 5 is weird.
Was it a deal where like one of the teams got a bye or 2 of the teams got a bye or some? I don't know. Anyway, we didn't. Yeah, obviously Jason and I did.
It's a weird way of doing it because you have an odd number of teams, so someone has to not play, and someone's got an.
Or was it the bottom 2 teams had like a play-in game or something? And you can do a lot of those things. A lot of times it's an
extra game.
Yeah, and I know.
That
works as long as you have a neutral site thing. But if the NCHC ever decided to do like it seems like a lot of the other conferences, like the Big Ten, are doing, and go to campus sites, that type of system wouldn't work very well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
which is where I say, like, you could do something where you have 10 teams. You've got top 2 teams are automatic onto neutral site.
Right.
That's for coming in first or second in the regular season. That is your reward.
You could do something like that. Sure.
Right. So now you've got 8 teams.
Right.
So your 8 teams play home site, where
4 of those will win.
3, 4, 5, 6 are home sites. 7, 8, 9, 10 go to those seeds.
Okay, yeah. I know. You could do that too.
But then
it's still going to be funky. It's still going to be
weird. Now you're going to end up with 6 teams because all you're going to do is lose 4. So you're going to end up with a 6-team format at your neutral site.
Okay.
So then you end up with, okay, well, how do we get a 6-team down to 4?
Yeah. I don't know.
So
the question is, are you completely dead set against we're 8 teams? It may be brutal for teams like UNO because, if you look at this conference so far, the teams, relatively speaking, since this conference started 2013, that have pretty much been dominant have been Duluth, St. Cloud, Denver, and North Dakota. There are certain years when those teams are down, but by and large, those 4 teams have been pretty dominant in this conference since its inception. So do you keep that purity and not have the chaff? You don't have the fat. You don't have the possibility that there are teams that are going to be average teams that maybe are a little bit more beatable on any given year and avoid any weird conference scheduling conflicts with playoffs and whatnot. Or
right now I sit here and say that bringing one team in is a bad idea.
What about 2?
I'm okay with bringing 2 under 2 conditions. One being, it's not my decision. The teams have to all agree that this is the best way to go.
Right.
And I think it's probably could go without saying. I just like to say it, like, it needs to be their choice.
Right. The member institutions have to make that choice.
I think it works best if they bring in, like, if they're going to bring in Arizona State, that they bring in a team that is higher end caliber, not another team that they would consider low end caliber. Like, I would bring in another team that you said year 1 should be competitive with the likes of North Dakota, Duluth, Denver.
So would you bring in a Mankato, or would you become a little bit more creative with that pick?
Well, I mean, there's talks about Notre Dame saying
Notre Dame had at one time been part of the conversation with the NCHC.
Right.
Then they ended up going to Hockey East, and now they're with the Big Ten, which obviously geographically makes sense. And from just looking at the fact that a lot of these are football schools.
Right.
It does. I mean, they are, from a funding point of view and everything else, there's a lot of similarities there. So it does make sense. Now maybe they would decide that, from a hockey prestige point of view, that they wanted to be in the
right.
But again, that obviously brings up the question too, Jason. They would obviously, like Western Michigan and Miami, they would have to travel pretty far to come to games in places like, I mean, even Omaha, but North Dakota, Minnesota, Duluth,
and there's
Denver,
of, like,
Colorado College.
There's no direct flights,
right?
So that's the other,
obviously, yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, they can go to Chicago and fly to Denver and probably fly to Omaha and those types of things. But you're right. Sometimes it's
The other thing that I question about bringing in Arizona State is there are a lot of rumblings about California schools with the expansion of the NHL going to Seattle. Do some of those schools start looking at creating programs? And do we end up with a West Coast league?
For example, University of Arizona, their neighbor down the road,
right,
has had a very good club program for years. What if they decided to go Division I? What if UNLV, a program that we've heard because of the rise of the NHL in Las Vegas with the Las Vegas Golden Knights, what if UNLV decided to start a Division I hockey program? And then what if you get some California teams, I'm just throwing schools out here. What if you had USC or
not even that California. San Jose State University has talked about doing a program. Santa Barbara has talked about doing a program.
Okay, so what if you had like a Pacific Coast Hockey Conference? Like, yeah, exactly. What if you had this
West Coast hockey program?
Are you integrating them into your conference and
only
then
to lose them a few years later?
Right, and at which point then you're stuck again. You're stuck with 9 teams, and then you got to bring somebody else in that maybe you don't want to bring in. So that's got to be part of the reluctance of member schools. You also have to be concerned about bringing Power 5 football and basketball money into the NCHC, because by and large, if you look at the member schools, that's not what they are.
Right.
The schools are a little bit more closely aligned. Obviously, Miami and Western Michigan playing in the Mid-America Conference is a little bit different than the conferences that like North Dakota, UNO, Denver play in their other athletics. Right. So, it's one of those interesting things. But I guess the question I ask you is, if we allowed Arizona State into the conference and that caused more dominoes to fall on the West Coast and then they left, would that necessarily be a bad thing, because there'd be more hockey and suddenly we wouldn't just have 60 teams or whatever?
It'd be a better thing for hockey, but right. I mean, it's just like when NCHC created, right? Like, it's just gonna, when we're talking about this, even just the concept of saying, let's just bring Arizona State, you think, oh, they're the one, outlier. Let's just bring them to the NCHC and it'll be an odd number right. and we'll be okay, right? Like, that's not,
No, I understand.
Even just doing that, even if they just said that's all we're going to do, we're not going to make it even, we're not going to do anything, we're just going to bring in Arizona State, I guarantee there's going to be other problems in other conferences of clubs wanting to switch. So whenever you start talking about this, you start talking about dominoes and what else is going to fall.
And we don't, as the NCHC, want to be responsible for pushing that first domino
right, down. We don't want to hit the button.
Well, and another consideration, too, with Arizona State, quite honestly, is they've been good the last couple seasons, and
right.
They're not in hockey rich territory like North Dakota and Minnesota Duluth, but they have a very unique climate to be able to recruit players to, and in a campus that's very attractive to players, because it's one of the largest public universities in the United States.
Their argument will be that they have to recruit kids from Minnesota and Michigan and
it's like, hey, you get to come down here and you get to wear shorts to class and do all that kind of stuff. So
right. But Minnesota's, like, if I've got a $100,000 recruiting budget in Minnesota, that's going to go a long way. A $100,000 recruiting budget in Arizona is not going to get you very many players.
It is. That's one of the things that Trev Alberts talked about at the press club, was how when Mike Kemp started, UNO's recruiting budget, I think, was like $40,000, $50,000. And when Mike Gabinet started, it was still $40,000, $50,000. And for UNO, that's right. not in a traditional market like Duluth or North Dakota are, they're a program that has to like go outside of the country a lot of times to Canada to find kind of the core of their roster. And so it costs a lot to fly and travel around, and lodging and meals and everything else. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Arizona faces those kinds of challenges too. But obviously they have Power 5 football money that can help fund those things,
Right.
It's just one of those interesting things. I love the idea of jockeying with conferences. I think it'd be kind of cool to have Arizona State in the conference. I mean, I feel like they practically are in the conference. I mean, we played them, twice last season, home and home series.
Right.
We play them once this season. I don't know. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having them in their 70 different uniform combinations.
Oregon.
I'd just like to have a third jersey at UNO. Do we need to hold a GoFundMe to make that happen? Because I know people talked about, being some waiting period with Adidas, and I'm like, why? Do we need to have I'm serious. Like, do we need to have a GoFundMe? I want a third jersey.
I got an idea.
What's your idea?
Why don't we just do it ourselves? We'll sell them on Mavpuck and watch them all freak out when people start wearing them to hockey games.
Yes, exactly. This is what the team should be wearing.
You could design a third jersey. We could have Lowers printed up.
Awesome jersey. Yeah. Ben Matukowicz, who's designed some of the concept jerseys we've seen online, he could do that too. But I would love to see the team have just a third jersey. We don't need 70 uniform combinations. Although I do like the, Oregon State football method of college hockey uniforms. So I will say that doesn't bother me that much when I hear about Arizona State having that. It's one of those unique hooks that you can do when you're a non-traditional hockey school in a non-traditional part of the country as it regards that sport.
So to wrap this up, we've got to talk about next weekend in St. Cloud.
We got to go to St. Cloud. Yeah.
Big sheet of ice.
I mean, we really need, and I said this on the Mavpuck message board before last weekend. We really need to get a win. We cannot get too far behind in the conference race. And we're currently sitting in last place.
But we're 4 points behind Miami in 4th, so...
We are. Denver's in 7th at 6. We're in last place at 4 points. Denver's in 7th with 6. St. Cloud is in 6th with 6th. Yeah. Colorado College has 7. So we're within spitting distance of all those teams. And like you said, Miami, which is sitting in 4th place, and they got swept by St. Cloud last weekend. We need positive results we really do.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
And it's tough. St. Cloud isn't the same team. They lost that talented senior class that they had last season.
Yeah.
But they've still got a lot of talented players on that team, and they're probably feeling a little bit more confident after that sweep against Miami.
And even before that, the last couple weeks they've been playing better hockey than when they started. So unfortunately, I think we're going in there when they're on the upswing.
We are. And St. Cloud is a place where we haven't had a lot of success over the years.
Again, it's the big ice. I don't know why. We better be practicing at Tranquility this week.
Yeah, I know in years past they've gone out and practiced on the big ice at Tranquility. So I don't know if they are or not, but I hope they are too. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting series. This was one where earlier on this season we might have thought UNO stood a chance. This is our one and only series against St. Cloud this season. So this is the only chance we're going to see the Huskies. I don't know which direction to go. Last week you and I both picked that UNO was going to get swept by Duluth, and they got swept by Duluth. So this weekend, I don't know what direction I want to go, but I'm going to be a little bit confident. The team needs a win. They can't get too far behind in the conference race. That's the big thing. Right now, they're within spitting distance of 4th place. Getting a win or two would be huge. Getting a tie at this point would be huge. I'm going to say that UNO goes in there and they split. I'm going to say that the team is fed up. They're tired of losing.
Okay.
They're tired of the 2 previous home series where they get swept by Duluth and we tie and lose to Miami. They're going to be mad. They're going to be angry. And UNO is going to go in on Friday night and they're going to get the job done.
So win Friday, lose
Win
Saturday.
Friday, lose Saturday.
Okay. Here's what I think.
Okay.
St. Cloud may be playing better hockey now.
I would agree.
But they have a long break after they play us.
Okay.
Their next game is a tournament game, and their first opponent's going to be Minnesota State Mankato.
Okay.
I think that we can catch them in an upset. I'm hesitant to say that we can win them both.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if we go in and we eke out a tie on Friday, but then we're able to win outright on Saturday.
Okay.
I think there's a couple things that lead me to that. I think Weiss playing the way he is, a lot more space for him to be more creative, and he's finding some chemistry with Abate and...
Right, and ultimately the weekend didn't go the way we wanted it to, but we were really good on the penalty kill, and I think that'll be important on the road this weekend.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to hear what they work on in practice this week. I'm sure they'll work on a number of things, and it might pay dividends.
So I'm going to go on a limb and say 4-point weekend.
Okay, I'm going to say a 3-point weekend. I'm going to say we split on the weekend. It's going to be we got Arizona State coming into Omaha the following week, and they've been playing really well. They played really well against Denver this last weekend down in Arizona. We've got to get some positive things going before the first of the year, because we've got 2 series before the first of the year. We need to get some more conference points to get a little bit of confidence, stay in the race. We can't get ourselves out the race, but more than that, when you've got Arizona State and then you have to go to Maine and then you have to go to North Dakota in your next 3 series, they need some positive momentum because that's going to be a tough row of opponents to have to go through.
And picking up some points and playing well up in St. Cloud, could give you some confidence going into Arizona.
Good way to help your confidence.
Steamrolls, right?
Exactly, against a team that you haven't had success against the last couple of seasons. So it's time to get it done, Mavs.
There we go.
Well, until next time, you can follow all of our, random banter and blathering at Mavpuck.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. You can find links to those things at Mavpuck.com. Yeah. And until next time, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.